Well, welcome back. We told you we've got a very special treat for you today. If you are a country music fan, and I mean a true country music fan, as I am, you're going to love today's interview. In fact, if you grew up with the true roots of country music, or you want that type of country music to come back, we're going to discuss that. Kelly Lang, she has written songs for Lori Morgan, Ricky Skaggs, T.G. Shepherd, who is her husband, Jerry Lee Lewis, the Oak Ridge Boys, BJ Thomas, good names, right? Good company. George Jones, I mean, come on, Crystal Gale, Johnny Lee, William Lee Golden. She has performed duets with Sir Barry Gibb, Dame Olivia Newton-John, Lee Greenwood, Paul Schaefer, T.G. Shepherd, and so many more. But she's not only a beautiful singer, songwriter, she's also an author. She is also a painter, a breast cancer survivor, and just a all-around fabulous woman. And I'm excited to have her on with us today. Welcome to the show, Kelly Lang.
Thank you, Monica. What a beautiful introduction. I'm impressed with myself after all of that. Thank
You
you.
should be. And we got to start off by saying thank you to a mutual friend of ours, Ning. We love you. Thank you for
Yeah.
connecting us, and I look forward to coming to Nashville and getting a chance to meet you in person someday. We were just discussing how the two of you met over 10 years or so ago. Love the friendship and again the kindness. That's my whole show is about positivity and hope and light and faith
Oh,
and just combining those kind of friendships. So I'm glad you met her, and now I'm glad that we get a chance to introduce my audience if they don't already know you. I One of the things that I want to say, I watched your debut of your Grand Ole Opry performance
uh,
and was just blown away. First of all, you and I both share the love for fashion. Your suit was stunning.
well,
I
I
know
must
you said it
say,
was loud, but I thought it was stunning.
it was very loud. It was Opry Goes Pink that night,
Yes.
and it was for breast cancer awareness, and it was very, perfect color for the evening. But we had to take it up a notch and do all the rhinestones, and it's a Nadine Marabi suit that my friend Kim Fannin bought for me as a gift. And the lady that altered it for me, if you look on the inside, I look like Porter Wagner. I had my name embroidered in it, Opry debut, certain date. So it was really a special, one of a kind to me piece, and I'll cherish it forever. Thank you for noticing.
Oh, absolutely. So that was your solo debut. You would, of course, been gracing the stage with your husband and with others, but there were many people that probably thought that you'd already made your debut. That happened in what, the fall of 23?
Yes, October. Yes, I'd sung with Barry Gibb on the Opry one time, and I'd sung on it with TG a few times. And it was a lot of people said, "Wait, I thought you'd been on here before," because I've just been around for so long. But to make your Opry solo debut, that was my first, and it was very exciting. There's Barry and I doing our show together. We did Islands in the Stream that night together.
Oh, I love it.
And you know what? It's funny because that very night before that, Barry and I sang for Kenny Rogers' induction into the Country Music Hall of Fame,
I saw that.
and that was really something. That was a highlight of my career. I enjoyed that. It was. I think people were shocked to see him because he's not in the country genre so much, but that's where his love is. He loves bluegrass and country, and he was more nervous than I was meeting all of his country music heroes where I know them. I mean, I shop at the grocery store next to them. So it was really cool to be able to introduce him to like Garth Brooks or Bobby Bear or things like that. It was a really cool evening.
Yeah, I would not know. I mean, again, for all of you, I hope you know who Barry Gibb is. If you grew up loving the Bee Gees and loving disco music, I wouldn't. But again, there's so much, really, Kelly, that as you know, as an artist, that all intertwines. So there's music inspiration taken from every genre. But yes, if you think of the Bee Gees, you don't automatically go, "Oh, are they pulling something from country or bluegrass?"
Yeah, well, Barry wrote a song for Conway, who my dad was his road manager, and he wrote "Islands in the Stream," which was a crossover. And when I sit with Barry and we sing along with his guitar, it's generally old classic country stuff, like "White Sport Coat" and the Pink Carnation. And he goes way back to that era. And some of his favorite artists are the Isaacs and Jimmy Fortune, and he loves great music. He's just a musician first and writer, and I think he has great appreciation for all types.
Absolutely. Again, if you're just tuning in, Kelly Lang is my guest, and we're going to be talking about country music, the people that she has been around and had a chance to write for and sing with, the true roots of country music. Now, here's what's funny, Kelly. I'm going to admit this because my show's all about being real. So, growing up as a little girl, one of my best friend's dads was driving us one day to a soccer game, and he's listening to WIL here in St. Louis,
Mhm.
and we were all like, what is he listening? Because I think I was like 9 or 10 years old. And we were like, what is he listening to? And my friend was like, oh, that's my dad. It's country. We were cracking up, and I was like, do you not like it? And she goes, no. I'm like, okay, then we don't like it either. And so we all were acting like we didn't like country. Then fast forward to the beginning of my career, and sure enough, what was the music that I ended up working in radio was country, and I
Country
fell
music.
in love with it so much. And it was
So
funny because we had three other stations in the group, and there was like rock station and hard rock and alternative, and all of their artists would come in, and then we would have our country artists come in, and they would always laugh, and they're like, country music singers are the nicest, classiest people. And they're like, and we've got our guys coming in smelling like they didn't even take a shower
I've smelled some country music singers that don't smell so good. No, I'm just kidding.
This is true.
No, there's different eras of country music that I like better than others. I tease that, I married my favorite era, with TG, but
Sure.
I like some of the more current music, but I really like the 80s and 90s era the best. I think it's when I was growing up in it, perhaps, and I did a lot of shows as opening acts of people that I really admired, and I still stay true to that. That's my favorite era of it, and I love all different. My mother raised me on more pop stuff like Gladys
Right.
Knight
Oh,
and
love
Elvis, of course, and the Bee Gees and things like that. So I had a good combination of just great music in the house as I was growing up. But I started in country, and it's really funny because although I love and have a great passion for it, I also record some of those classic songs that my mother raised me on too, on a couple of albums called Old Soul and Old Soul 2
that.
in honor of her. And I've really enjoyed doing both.
Well, you named obviously some incredible artists. Gladys Knight, I've had a chance to see. We actually did a backstage thing with her, and I'm like, wow, what a class act. I mean, but again, don't.
Uh,
I mean, wouldn't you say this to everybody? Be as diverse as you possibly can be.
yeah,
Just
I
gonna
mean,
find stuff you don't like.
yeah, there's the writer that wrote Midnight Train to Georgia,
Huh.
and Best Thing That Ever Happened to Me. His name is Jim Weatherly, and I've written a song with him many years ago. He's since passed, but I'm getting ready to record it and put it on a new project coming out.
Oh,
So
fantastic.
music is timeless and it crosses all genres. It could be country, could be pop. My goal in life is to meet Gladys Knight. Of all the people I've met, she's the one that I have not had an opportunity to yet, but she's my all-time favorite vocalist.
Okay, my best friend, who's one of my assistants, she's gonna love hearing. I told her she was gonna love you anyway, but now she's really gonna love you. I took her to see that show here in St. Louis,
Right?
and again, it was just this very quick backstage, and we were like, "Hi, Miss Gladys! Oh my gosh, you're amazing!" I mean, she was incredible.
I
She
would
was
die.
singing.
I'm normally not speechless, but that would be the time I would be.
That's exactly how she was. She was like, "Oh my gosh, I was this close to her." I'm like, "Yes, I know." She was singing with somebody who is my one of my favorites is Peebo Bryson. So Peebo
Oh,
was opening for her. We did get a chance to do a long interview with Peebo, but unfortunately Gladys wasn't doing interviews. But we again, yes, what? She's just a beautiful, beautiful lady.
mm.
Again, if you're just tuning in, we're just gushing over incredible artists, but you've got one right here on the screen with you, Kelly Lang. Kelly, when I was listening to your performance at the Grand Ole Opry, and just listening, you have such a beautiful voice and a great storyteller, and that's what I love about really great artists. You reminded me of growing up and listening to the Mandrell sisters. Your vocal quality, Barbara and Louise and Earlene and all of them, I was like, oh gosh, she just has that. And the way Dahlia is, and Reba, and just that type of
Thank
gorgeous
you.
classic country, which again, a lot of people are saying that they're longing for that and they're hoping for that to come back. You just mentioned that you like some of the new stuff. My husband will always say that he enjoys, like you do, the era that I worked in country radio, which was the late 80s, early 90s,
Yeah.
and mid to late 90s. But now it's, I don't know. What do you think of where country music is going? Do you think it will continue to pull maybe from some of the past?
I'm all for evolving different types of music, and I'm all for revisiting the past a little. I think it's really cool when I see a new artist reach backwards and pull somebody new. For instance, I loved that Blake Shelton
Mhm.
pulled the Bellamy Brothers forward and had them opening for their shows. And I love when they bridge that gap. I think it's really, really cool. And I like to write for some of the new artists, but I don't know. I don't write for radio. I tend to write for a voice or a project that I like to hear, but it's really cool when you combine both, is what I'm trying to
Absolutely.
say. As far as where it's going, it's confusing to me. Some of the new artists, I'm like, wow, that I didn't see Jelly Roll coming, but I love Jelly Roll, you
I
know.
think so.
So I think it's just I love his message. You know, I think the story that goes along with the artist intrigues me just like it does you. What a great influence he can be on people coming up and teaching people that it's never too late, or you know
Right.
you can follow your goals no matter what your past situation's been. I really love that. I think it's really cool. But I don't know, I feel like sometimes I don't understand um, some of the lyrics. I would prefer to get away from the pickup truck and the white T-shirt and blue jean shorts kind of mode. I don't know what you would even call that era of music, but
Sure.
um, you know, I'm a real romantic person. I love songs. That's my favorite type of country music, is when it really touches the heart.
Absolutely. Mine too. So, I mean, we were looking on, I want you all to go to the website, by the way. Let me give you all the information so you can follow Kelly online. When you do so, you are going to get immersed on her website of all the pictures when you look through her as a singer. We're going to talk about her as an author, as well as a painter and a comedian, but all the different people that you've had an opportunity to meet in your career through your relationship with your husband, T.G. Shepherd. I'm sure you're going to be like, okay, hang on, how can I pick? Of all the people that you've met, is there anyone? I mean, you just mentioned that you would love to meet Gladys, but since you
Yeah.
haven't, who would be the top for you?
I would love to do a duet with Michael Bublé. I've
Oh,
seen him
amen.
in
You are
concert.
my twin.
Yeah, I've seen him in concert several times. I think our voices would blend well together. I would obviously like to sing with Gladys. That would be nice. I'd love to collaborate with Celine. I think you know, I
Oh,
think I would like her. She's
agreed.
fun and quirky, and I've never met her. I think she's amazing, but I love her performances, and I'm really proud of her. How far she's come
So,
with what's
did
going
you see
on.
her documentary?
I bawled like a
Oh my
baby.
gosh, Kelly, me too. I have
Yeah,
been a fan of hers since I was a
same.
little girl. And then when they were talking about a surprise singer at the Olympics, I kept thinking, it can't possibly be her, is it? And I lost it. We were in
I
Cabo
do too.
watching the Olympics, and I was like screaming at the top of my lungs, it's Celine.
Same. I mean, she did beautifully, you know, and she's been through a lot, you know. So I'm just so proud that she's come through that, and I love how vulnerable she was in that documentary. And I thought it could help somebody, you know, and what courage she has. I get
Absolutely.
I get to thinking, what if I had her ability and fame? How scary that would be to not be able to be, you know, truly myself, and
Right.
that's so scary.
Absolutely. Again, if you're just tuning in, Kelly Lang is our guest. We're talking about country music. We're talking about life. I again looking through some of the pictures. So somebody that you have met that I wish my director would have pulled this picture um, is someone I have on my bucket list before I get out of media that I want to interview. Dolly Parton. I mean, who doesn't want to interview Dolly Parton?
Dolly is amazing. Actually, when I was 18, I was on Ed McMahon's Star Search, and I did two of her songs on there. And when I got home from doing Star Search, I was on there three times. And I got home and I went to go see her at the Opry House, and she was so sweet to pull me up on stage and thank me for singing her songs on Star Search. I didn't even think I was on her radar in any way, you know, but that was really, really cool. And, you know, I don't see her very often. And when I do see her, it's always briefly, whatever, but just to be in her presence is just remarkable.
Yeah. I mean, that woman is just the queen of everything. But
Oh,
you're
yeah.
right there, though, Kelly. I mean, the things that you've done. We're talking about obviously from a singing standpoint. Let's talk about you as a painter also. And your paintings are hanging in some very. I'll let you do the name dropping. Very high end people.
Well, okay. painting is not my forte. I don't even think I'm a good painter in any way. It's just something that I happened to fall into because my brother paints, my mother painted, and TG thought, well, you could probably paint too. You're pretty creative. So he bought me a little oil painting kit in my 30s, and I thanked him for that by painting him a little coffee cup. TG wrote the Folgers theme song, The Best Part of Waking Up. Okay.
Yep.
So I painted him this little tiny coffee cup. And TG, can you bring that to me? I want to show it's just right over there. I want to show you the painting. It's little. So when I took it to get it framed, this lady, she said, I want to buy this from you. And I'm like, what do you mean you want to buy? Well, I just did it as a gift for my boyfriend. And she said, this is really special. So I ended up painting another one for her and selling it. And then I started selling more. And then I started thinking, wow, there's something to this, you know. And I began painting. This is the little painting that I did. This is my first painting I ever did.
Oh, I love it.
So anyway, he thought it was cute, and I just kind of went from there. And then I started painting people's pets because I'm a pet fanatic,
Yep.
and I painted Barry Gibbs. 3 or 4 of his dogs, and Olivia Newton-John's. I painted her dogs, and Justin Timberlake's mom's dog, and Larry the Cable Guy's dog, and Oprah's dog. It just was weird that these just happened to end up in these. There's Olivia. Oh, she and I were really close friends, really, really close friends. And I miss her terribly. She wrote the foreword to my book, as a matter of fact.
I was just going to mention that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anyway, she had I painted her 2 dogs, and she ended up hanging them and putting their collars. They'd passed. They put their collars on the edge of the frames when she hung those. I thought that was really sweet.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And so again, big animal lover. We were actually before Kelly and I went on, we were talking about our dog. She just took her dog to the groomer. She's when we were setting this up, she was like, "We should do it when the dog's not around because the dog will bark." And I'm like, "I your dog's not there to bark. My dogs are behaving right now." But you and I are both big animal lovers. You want to tell everybody the name of your beautiful dog?
Sure. Okay, her name is Coco Chanel Shepherd, and her name fits her. She is a diva through and through, and she was really docile and very quiet before she got that name. The second we named her, she turned into, you know, Mariah Carey. Is the diva of all divas. She talks loud. She's a flamboyant. It's hilarious.
She knows she's a princess.
Yes, well, she knows she's the queen.
Oh, yeah, she's the queen. That's right. Kelly was saying that I think I feel the same way about my dog Adelaide. We're just living in her home. She's in
Mhm.
charge, right?
She owns the joint, yes.
Exactly. Again, so singer, songwriter. We're going to talk about comedian as well. So, how did that come about? I think what I was reading is, did you need something during? Because I mentioned at the very beginning all the great things about Kelly, but the one thing that you mentioned when you were at the Grand Ole Opry for your debut performance was all the people that were in the audience that had been affected by breast cancer, all of those who were going through breast cancer. I mean, I don't know how everybody in that audience didn't raise their hands because somehow, some way, someone that's associated with that. You are now a survivor. How many years?
20 years.
Wow.
Just celebrated my 20. I know. I'm in such shock over it. First of all, it's weird that it ever happened to me. I don't look good bald or green. I noticed that really right away. So I'm grateful
Even
not.
though TJ told you were beautiful, right? At that
Yes, he did. He did. So it is. I just am so grateful to still be here. I know so many women that went through that, including Olivia. She was a great mentor for me to think positively and not get down and switch gears in your head if you're thinking sad, thoughts. And I
moment.
learned so many of my life lessons from her, that I actually put into my book. I'm Not Going Anywhere, and it just I have like a survivor's guilt sometimes. Like, what am I doing still here when a lot of my friends that have had go through that are not? And the only thing I can think of is there's still more for me to do, or perhaps I can help somebody with what I'm going through. And my book is filled with my story, but it's an uplifting story. It's not all about sadness or breast cancer. It's about fun things that I chose to do instead of, feeling down in the dumps, and the way I pulled myself through things and lessons I learned.
right.
So it's I wouldn't want to go back through it again, but I wouldn't take anything for it either. It's a life lesson that has changed me for the best, I think. I
And
like to say this, Monica. I like to say, a lot of people think of something like that, a diagnosis, as a death sentence, but I chose to look at it as my life sentence. Like, now what? You
I was
know?
going to ask you to say that because that's what I heard you say on the stage, and I just got chills when you said it.
Yeah, it's very true. I look at the sky as bluer, the grass is greener. I look at people with much more empathy, and I'm just a better person because of it.
Agreed. And that's so again, we have a mutual friend that introduced us if you didn't hear the beginning of the show, but I think that's another reason why Ning and I thought you and I would get along so well. I had a massive blood clot when I was 19 years old that
Oh,
I haven't checked in a while, but for the longest time, I was told it was the largest blood clot in medical history. And if I didn't tell somebody,
yeah.
you would never know. I mean, it's just the way God works through us that one doctor wanted to amputate. I would have been an amputee. Another doctor said, "No, let's start using this drug that was just approved by the FDA. Let's see if it'll work on the clot." Thankfully, it did. I was in intensive care for a few weeks and then monitored for a couple of years. But I did the same thing, Kelly, where I sat there and thought, so many other people's lives are taken. Why did I get here to stay? And so
Yeah.
all I thought was from there forward, I was always a faith based person, but doesn't it take your faith to a whole nother level of, I feel like I'm a disciple here for you. What do you want me to do?
Yeah, I feel like he's given me platforms like yours to be able to speak of my relationship with God is it's everything to me. It's why I get up in the morning, and TG and I pray every night together, and I my prayer is silently that people can see him through my eyes. I want people to be able to feel comfort in my presence, or maybe I can be a light, in their darkness somehow. And I don't even know what I could do to help somebody, but just by being alive, I think I wished I had had somebody like me when I was 36 and diagnosed. I was a single mom of two little girls, scared to death. I had nobody my age that I could relate to, so if I can be that person for somebody, I really tried to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and one of the songs that you sang on the Opry stage that night had to do, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to hear what she does with this song. Talking about, and I mentioned this to my husband a lot. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just got chills. I got goosebumps. And he doesn't understand what I'm talking about. And I said, you don't know what that feels like? He's like, no. Goosebumps, and then seeing you mentioned a redbird, right? Seeing a cardinal and thinking, is that my dad from above? I want to say, Ning had told me you recently lost your mother. I am so sorry. I know you were super, super close,
Yeah.
but I'm sure the way that song speaks that you're probably also thinking of her, that when you see these things, that's her talking to you from above. You agree with that?
Me too. This song, I was at, if you don't mind me indulging in why I wrote the song, okay. I was at a Brooks and Dunn concert with my youngest daughter, and I didn't expect to feel a religious thing come over me at a Brooks and Dunn concert, but I heard them sing Red Dirt Road, and one of the lines in it is, "That's where I found Jesus," and I'm like, why do I have chills on this up tempo fun song? A couple of songs in, it was the song "I Believe," and it's like all of a sudden I have chills now. I started crying. I had a lump in my throat, and I noticed I wasn't the only one that was feeling that, and everybody around me was. And I thought, what is that? What is that universal thing that everybody goes through?
Right.
So I came home and I wrote this song called "I Think It's Jesus," and the first line is, "Have you ever noticed that lump in your throat when you hear the words of a song someone wrote?"
Yep.
It's just very blunt. It's something that we've all universally gone through. Whether you see a feather on the ground or a penny on the ground, you're like, where'd that come from?
Exactly.
And and I see redbirds a lot in my backyard, or dragonflies land on me, and I'm like, what is this? This is super weird. Supernatural things that there's no explanation for. I just put an answer to it. So it's not a gospel song or religious song. It's just kind of a human song, really. And I was able to perform that on the Opry a couple of times, and it's really been cool to see the reaction of that.
It's beautiful, and I love. Again, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is my new favorite song because I had not ever heard it, and I'm like, yes, that's how I live my life. That I just feel that there's always these messages,
If
and
you're open to it, it's
yes,
really a remarkable world. If you're closed minded to that, I'm sorry for you, but I see things in Technicolor. I'm sure you do too.
That's so fun. That's what, look at our background's perfect. It's just
I
changing.
know. I probably drive TG crazy, but I'm like, did you see that? Did you hear that? And he's like, oh my goodness, Kelly. Like last night, we went to a restaurant and this light kept flickering above me. He goes, "There's your mom," and I'm
See,
like,
it is. You never know.
I'm all for it. That's fine with me.
Well, and so Dragonfly, I also saw on your Instagram page. Did you just get some Dragonfly earrings for your
My
birthday?
daughter bought me some beautiful, a lot of people to send me dragonfly things. A friend named Danny just brought me a dragonfly necklace and an earrings, and my daughter brought me these gorgeous ones I put up on Facebook. Yeah, I've never been a fan of insects, so this is the weirdest thing. But Monica, I'll be out in my swimming pool, and I don't even know what started this, but I held my fingers up because I saw one flying near me, and it landed on me, and I'm like, that's weird.
You're a
It's
spirit animal.
very strange. And it was such a strange phenomenon. So I did it the next day, and it came again. Following year, I'm thinking, well, these are dead by now. Surely this isn't going to happen this year. It happened again.
Holy
Funny
cow.
story. One time I was out there and I didn't have my glasses or contacts in, and I put my finger up, and this humongous one landed on my finger. Biggest one I've ever seen. And I'm like, that is weird. That's phenomenally huge. So I put my glasses on, and it was two of them mating on my finger. I was like, you've got to be kidding. That's a whole new low for me. But so I mentioned to my friend that gave me the dragonfly earrings, I said, I'm doing a new album, and it's going to be called Dragonfly because it's such a weird phenomenon, and it's kind of a secret little thing. He goes, so are you going to write a song called Dragonfly? And I'm like, how do you write a song about an insect? Like, what are you talking about? But I did. And I made a really interesting video of it, and that's been surprisingly what I have friends call me Dragonfly all the time now. So it's kind of a nickname.
It's your nickname. It's stuck. Yes. We've been visiting with Dragonfly. That's what I should have been saying this whole time. We also have to talk about this. Congratulations. And I know that you just got this in the mail and it was autographed for you. So Kelly has the state song of Tennessee. I mean, come on. There's so many things you have done. You are truly remarkable. What does this mean to you?
Everything. Actually, I wrote this song 16, 17 years ago for my mom. She and I were driving through Hendersonville, and if you've never been to Tennessee, it's really, really unique and beautiful. The hills, the mountains, the rivers, the music, the heritage, everything is really neat. But I had not seen it through her eyes until this day. And she says, look around. It's so beautiful. It's so, everything enriched. And I'm like, okay, mom. She said, you should write a song about it. I'm like, again, I was like, how do you write a song about a state? I went home. As a gift to my mother, I wrote this song called Under a Tennessee Moon. And I never thought anything more about it, but it encompasses all the three segments of Tennessee, whereas Memphis is, the blues and Elvis, and the central part is Nashville, the Opry, and the other parts is like Bristol and Knoxville and Chattanooga and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like taking a trip through the whole state. And fast forward all these years later, it got to the right hands, and the Tennessee government recently made it up there with Rocky Top and Tennessee Waltz. And the governor just gave me this beautiful proclamation, and my mom got to join me in meeting the governor and got to see me perform it on the Opry stage. There it is, right there. Yeah. And it was just so fulfilling because only 3 months later she passed.
I am so sorry.
Yeah, me too. There's Governor Lee, and it was just so sweet to have my mom. She was dealing with some memory issues, and it was she was there with me in the governor's office. And so when we left, I said, "Mom, wasn't that fun meeting him?" And she goes, "Now who was he now?" But to me, it was priceless. To me, I was like, "Wow," But to see her face in the audience of the Opry was very full circle moment for me.
Well, I'm sure she's very, very proud. Obviously, quite
Yes.
accomplished. I mentioned earlier, and I didn't realize he actually did pull this picture. So we were talking about all these incredible people that Kelly has met in her career, the friends that she's had. We do actually have a picture of her with Dolly and with Dirks. So
Oh, yeah.
Dirks Bentley,
Great.
I brought him out on stage back when I was working for WIL. He was
Sweetheart.
barely known. Oh my gosh, he was so sweet with his little curly hair.
Yeah.
Nobody really knew him. He was really starting out in his career at that point. But what a class act and what a talented artist.
Let me go back to the Tennessee Moon thing. Something really cool happened, and it's going to sound like I'm bragging, and I don't mean to, but I thought it was
Please do.
shocking to me, if you don't mind. So TG and I do this annual show here in Nashville around CMA West Fest week, and it's called Country for a Cause, and we raise money with a lot of different artists on the show. Um, huge artists, some up and coming artists. It's just such a fun night. We raise a lot of money for Monroe Carroll Jr.'s Children's Hospital at Vanderbilt.
Mhm.
And imagine my surprise when I wrote out the hand lyrics to my song, and it had just become state song. And they auctioned my lyrics off. And, I was thinking, I'll do anything for kids, I'll do anything for the Children's Hospital. And so I wrote them out, and I thought, they may bring $100, just anything. $6,500 is what that one thing
Really?
raised. And I was so thrilled. So I came home and I told my mom, Mom, you're never going to believe this. It's because of you. I wrote this song and it raised money for the hospital. And she says, how much did you raise? And I said, $6,500. She goes, $650,000. Kelly, I'm so proud of you. And I go, I'm just going to let her have it.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Let her have that.
Yeah, it was cute.
That's incredible. Again, the giving spirit that Kelly has, just you can see it. It comes through the screen. The part that I want you all to know also, which I was mentioning earlier, again, going through anything like being diagnosed with cancer and then thinking, how am I going to get through the treatments? Or I need something to take my mind off of it. Is that where the idea of this came about?
Oh Lord. I could have gone all day long without seeing that.
XOXO. Tell us about
Yeah.
XOXO.
Well, I had gone through treatments and I was going through some final treatments when she came about. There's Lori Morgan in the photo. Matter of fact, Lori just recorded 3 of my songs for her current album.
I love it.
Anyway, we were writing together, she and I and her pianist, and um, the subject of crazy over the top fans came up. And she said they always act like they know you more than they do, but they get your name wrong or your songs wrong, and they look a little kooky. And so I just thought, as a joke, I would go home and scour through all of my things in my closet and come up with this crazy character and show up at the next writing session. And that's who that is. That's like a country western singer, and so I thought it was one and done. I really didn't think any more about it. She goes, oh my gosh, Kelly, we got to come up with, what's her backstory? So I started coming up with her backstory, that she's from Bucksnort, Tennessee, and she wants to be on the Opry, and she's a little off. So then I started doing these little cameos with like Ricky Skaggs at the grocery store and Scott Hamilton on the ice. And, it was just a joke. It really, truly was a joke. And I didn't think any more about it other than it made me laugh, And so we put these videos out, and I had thousands of people throughout the years. I'm going through a sad time. I turned that on and it made me laugh. And then it turned into the Tennessean did this huge article on me. And when you Google me now, the first thing that pops up is EXO. And it's like, please, let's erase this. I've tried to kill her off a few times, but then Governor Huckabee had me
That's
on.
what I was watching.
Oh my gosh. And it took it up another notch, so I try to kill her and I can't get rid of her.
You
I
cracked
think,
me up when you said Sean Hannity. I'm like, oh my God.
oh, I know. I'm like warped. But if you really get to know me, Monica, I'm more like EXO than Kelly Lang. So it's
Really?
really a twisted mind in here. But
I love it.
I have a lot of fun playing her. And if it brings happiness to somebody, so what? I'll be a fool for whatever.
Well, see, that's it. So, it's kind of like the movie Shrek. He talks about how we all should have layers like an onion, right?
An
There's
alter ego, yeah.
so many layers to us. So to Kelly, it's a singer, a songwriter, a producer. We're talking about, again, let's put it back up on the screen where you can follow her. You can go on to her website, kellylang.net, also on Instagram at Kelly Lang Music. And then if you are interested in purchasing the book, you also can get autographed copies at kellylang.net. Otherwise, go on to Amazon. Before we wrap up, I want to talk about this because I know with TG and going back to, well, you also talked about your father, which I think is just phenomenal. Tell us a little bit about growing up and being around the great Conway Twitty.
There he is. That's my dad on the left, and me. As you can see, my name's clearly on my shirt there.
Just
I
in case you forgot.
I know. So that was at a softball game that they always did to raise money, and they were playing against Loretta Lynn's team that night. So I've been around this business since I was 1 year old. My dad started working with Conway when I was little, and I never thought of Conway as anything but just like an uncle. I didn't think he was anything to write home about until I started seeing him in concert. I'm like, oh, it's like the wind blows back when he walks on stage. And I'm like, whoa, I want what he's having. It was really cool to be able to see what I clearly wanted at such a young age. So I was like 7 starting to write songs.
Wow.
And the first song I wrote in the bathtub. And it's weird because I still write in the bathtub or in the pool.
Really?
But yeah, that's the only place I'll write, is when I'm really calm and, really relaxed. And
Were you born in a water sign?
you would know I'm Capricorn. So that's an interesting concept. But so I wrote, if you don't mind, Delta Dawn, push for shower, then you're gone. Push it open and you'll see that it will run. Push for C and you will freeze. Push for H and you will burn. Push up both of them and you will be a mixed up person. I was 6, but it started this crazy life of mine. But yeah, I started seeing that in Conway and meeting Loretta and meeting Crystal Gale, and all these people just became daily fixtures to me. And I didn't see anything other than that for my path. So I'm grateful for my dad working for him. And I met TG as I was an opening act for him when I was 13, 14 years old. And, at the time I didn't I didn't foresee him being my future husband, but hey, life is funny that way. And we've been together 24 years now.
I know. I was going to congratulate you that at the
Yeah.
end because, as you said in one interview, it's rare in the music industry, right? But
Oh, that's like 1,000 years in music, but the thing I want to touch back on that you mentioned, how did I get through some treatments?
Yep.
We were not married at the time. We were just dating, and I thought, wow, this is his way to go, and I'm not going to survive this. And at the time, my kids were young, and he wasn't in a place where he felt, comfortable committing. And it was just, I was like, now's your time, and he would show up at every chemo treatment and every MRI, and they would let him come in and hold my hand and sing to me during those MRIs. And if anybody knew TG Shepherd at the time, they would, there he is. They would never think of him as being that. He's such a loving, supportive partner to me. And man, it's just been a wonderful, wonderful life since he came into my life. My life has just been nothing but fantastic.
Well, and we want to thank him, by the way, because a young, incredible artist that we've had on the show several times ever since she was on The Voice and was the runner-up. Ruby Lee has become
Ruby Lee, yeah.
Ruby's been a very dear friend of mine. I've been personal training. Actually, she hired me to personal train her to get ready for her first Opry debut, and
nice.
performed there again. But she is a huge fan of both of yours, and that meant the world to her.
Oh, how sweet! Will you please give her our love and tell her we're really proud of her?
She is. And I love her again, staying true to the roots of country music. And the yodeling queen here in Missouri.
The thing about, I learned this a long time ago. I wanted to know, I was talking to Scott Hamilton and his manager. I wanted to know, Scott has only had 1 gold medal, whereas other people have had many, many gold medals, but you don't know who they are.
Right.
Why is Scott Hamilton so beloved and so well known? And his manager gave me the greatest answer. And it's not that they aren't, but it's because Scott is. It's authentic.
Yes.
And when you can be true to yourself and authentic, I think people can sense it if you're not. So I'm in my own lane. I have no ability or desire to compete with anybody. I wouldn't want this for anybody else either. But it's just, I think if that's a lesson that I could teach anybody that's coming up, if Ruby was listening, I would just say, rock on, baby girl, keep being yourself.
Always. And that's, that is the biggest thing that we've been talking about in this show ever since I left TV a couple years ago was if I can leave this earth and people say she was so real, she was so genuine, which I was taught by my mother. And the relationship you have with your mother is exactly how my mom and I are. We're best of friends. And
Yeah.
I cherish every moment that I get a chance to be with her. But she always told me, Monica, I don't care if you get to be Oprah status, you never better get to be too big for your britches. And I said, why would you? I mean, we all just need to be more kind to each other,
I
right?
know. A lot of people tell me they're like, I thought you'd be stuck up, and I'm like, why? Like, what point would that be? What good did that do anybody? I'm just. I was raised like that. My dad was always very, very reminding of me. You are no better than anybody else, and I, in hindsight, I really am grateful for that lesson.
Absolutely. I mean, again, it sounds like you were raised just as great as I was, and those are the blessings that we have. But before I wrap up, speaking of who I was raised by, my father. So this is a tie to TG. My father went to high school with Elvis at Humes High in Memphis, Tennessee. So I wonder if they ever somehow, because I know that TG and Elvis were dear friends for a long time, if they ever ran around together. I bet you
That's
they.
not, who knows? That's a whole nother interview. We need to get you
That's
hooked
it.
up with
I was just
TV.
going to say that. We're going to come to Nashville and we're going to talk with both of you and we'll sit there and have him reminisce about Elvis days.
He's got some really cool stories, and the only takeaway that I can say is how grateful he is to have had that friendship. Yeah. And all these years later, it's really weird that I'm friends with Priscilla. You wouldn't think that that would take place, but she's a wonderful person. I see what he loved about her.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the one thing that people always.
Oh, there she is.
Yep, there she is. So that's I'm glad we grabbed that before we wrapped up. But yes, just remarkable to see her in interviews and to see her again going back to the genuine side of who she is, and being around such a huge artist and such a presence in our world, sometimes you can get overshadowed, but now we get a chance to have known her life and see her speak, find her voice.
Not to continue, if you want to wrap things up, a funny story about her. I love to tease people, and I don't care who you are, you're going to get teased if you're in my presence long enough.
Oh,
So she was at a party with me at one point, and she says, "Hey, I'd like to get your number." And I said, "Oh no, I don't give my numbers out to strangers." And she goes, "What? Like, who's going to turn Priscilla Presley down?"
exactly.
So we've been really good buds since, because she says, "Nobody talks to me like that." I go, "Well, now's a new time."
Yeah, right. I just did.
I think she liked that I was cutting up with her,
Yeah,
because she's
you're real.
humor. Well, I was teasing, okay?
Yeah, but still, I think people. That's the thing. People look at celebrities and they put them in this light. And if someone can just like say, "Look, you're just like me," then it's like, "Oh, okay, we're fast friends."
Yeah, the ice was broke.
Yes, exactly. Well, Nang told me that you were going to be a pleasure. She was absolutely correct, and then some. I'm so glad we were finally able to make this happen. And I know we could go on for hours, so we're gonna table it, and we're gonna do a
Yeah.
part two.
Oh yeah, I'd
We'll,
love it.
we'll
I'd
do
love
it in
it.
person instead of through this.
Come on.
Come on, we'll do it together. Thank you so very much. You've been such a pleasure. And
Thank you
again,
much.
everybody, I want you to go on. Are you on Facebook as well, or is Instagram?
Oh, too much. Yes. I love Facebook. I love Instagram. I if I'm not answering, I have somebody that gets back, pretty quickly if I can't get to it. But I really enjoy the connection. I think it's a lot of fun. TG is writing me a note. Hang on. I want to.
All right.
Uh,
He can say hi if he
oh,
wants to.
YouTube. He wants me to mention
I was
YouTube.
just okay. I was going to say you're
Yeah,
on YouTube as well.
we're dropping a lot of really cool videos weekly on there. Here he is. Well,
Well,
hi.
hello there, TG.
Yeah.
How are you?
Hello.
How are you?
So check
How
out our
are you?
check out our YouTube pages, and check out all of our socials, because we really enjoy connecting.
And you did a throwback Thursday where you were singing a bunch of TG's songs, which I absolutely loved. And the Folger
Oh,
song was the way she wrapped it up, actually.
yeah, that's, man, you've done your
I
homework.
I do my homework, absolutely. TJ, we will come to see you in person and we'll do a part two.
Come on.
Lots
All
of
right.
love.
All right. Thank you so
Bye.
much. Everybody, don't go anywhere. We'll wrap up the Real Monica Adams Show when we return.